Alright, welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to Open Mic Wrestling Night here on Filling the Void Podcast Network. If you are listening now, thank you so much. If you're listening to any of the archive portions of this episode, whether it be through our website, Spreaker.com/filling_the_void, if you're listening to us through, or me, I should say, through iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, thank you so much. Let me get my plugs out of the way first really quick before we get into, quite frankly, a lot of topics here over here on the show. Follow me on Twitter at Kalypso426. You can follow the network on Filling the Void P on Twitter. And for right now, that's kind of what I wanted to do. So anyway, today is July 8th, 2018. It's amazing that the year is more than halfway over. And before you know it, summer's going to be over and everybody gets to, for a lot of the part of the country, at least on my side, you get to see leaves soon coming down. But anyway, on to what is going on in the world of pro wrestling today. And I want to start with, quite frankly, the topic that's getting the most conversation, and that is Brock Lesnar at UFC 226 last night. And you know, it's quite amazing, you know, how much attention that this is getting. And this isn't even attention for the intensive purposes of the original, I'm sure from the UFC side, getting mixed martial arts fans to come in, like casual fans to come in, you know, because quite frankly, let's be honest, people, the whole idea of an acquisition, or the return, I should say, of a former UFC heavyweight champion in Brock Lesnar is a huge deal for that company, especially as a casual fan of the product. A lot of criticisms from both sides, whether it's mixed martial arts, pro wrestling, current athletes and fans, all in which alike. And it's been interesting to read it over on social media, to be honest, because you know a lot of people, more people than not that I've seen at least, like based on people that I follow and whatnot, are all like, well, this is going to be a sick fight because, for those who are hardcore mixed martial arts fans, know who Daniel Cormier is. I hope I'm saying his last name right. They all know who he is. They all know the journey in which he's taken on in the world of mixed martial arts. Now he is the second fighter in the company history who now has possession of a world championship in two different classes, and that being the light heavyweight and heavyweight. The other person to do it, Conor McGregor. Now, is it as big of a deal? Now let's go to the UFC side here for a second and highlight Cormier here. Is this a big deal for the UFC? No. And here's why. Cormier, even though he is a good fighter, many would say he's great. I don't watch him enough to really give a honest judgment here. It's not a big deal because Cormier is not a household name that casual fans gravitate towards as would a Conor McGregor, because he causes controversy. He sells tickets. I mean, he's a character that people get behind in the sense of you're going to tune in, you're going to buy the pay-per-view, whether you're a fan of his or you just want to see him get his ass kicked. You're going to buy whatever it is for the Ultimate Fighting Championship to watch Conor McGregor. And you're not, and for me, for full disclosure, for me as a casual fan, I don't care with Cormier winning two classes championships. I have not, I haven't followed the UFC even on a mildly irregular basis. Like, I'll watch it if it's on the TV. I don't go out of my way to follow the sport. I don't go out of my way to, check the events out and everything of the like. Which, to those who are actual fight fans that are listening right now, like, well, how could you not? The sport's great. I'm sure it is. I'm sure. But you don't have the larger-than-life personalities that really draw a casual fan like myself to the product on television. When Jones was the top guy before he got busted with everything, I enjoyed watching him. George St. Pierre, he wasn't a character, but he was a legitimate badass at the time when UFC was at its peak in popularity, and he was a legit badass. You wanted to see him kick the shit out of someone. But now that's all gone. The other attraction that UFC had was Ronda Rousey, and guess where she is? She's a WWE superstar. Fancy that one. Okay. Brock Lesnar coming in. Now, for the wrestling fan, you look at it and say, well, he's going here. Why doesn't he want to be... He's going to the UFC again. Why doesn't he want to be here and work and defend a championship because he's a current, Universal Champion? It's like, the fans' feelings are hurt, and I can't say that I blame them being a hardcore fan. I'm going to be biased here. I am a Brock Lesnar fan. I think there wouldn't be as big of an issue of Brock going to UFC for the fan that gives half a shit, is because he holds a championship with the WWE, and it happens to be the Raw brand's World Championship. And he's held the championship now for well over a year. He's passed CM Punk's mark of one of the longer reigning world champions of the last 25 years. And Punk's defended it so many times, whereas Brock, defended it this many times. And people who are defending Punk, guys, he's in the UFC too, or at least he had 2 fights in the UFC. He left WWE because of, one reason or another to go to fighting. And he failed miserably. I don't want to hear the stories of, oh, well, good job chasing your dreams. Aren't you contradicting yourselves right now? Where that's something that Punk wanted to do. What's the difference in CM Punk going to the UFC versus a guy like Brock Lesnar going to the UFC? Brock Lesnar, before it's well documented, NCAA heavyweight champion, then goes to, WWE. He solidifies himself as a legitimate badass in the ring. He was a larger-than-life looking figure, and he carried himself in a larger-than-life way, and he still does. And Brock Lesnar has equity to his name from a WWE standpoint. Now, and at a time where WWE, people knew who he was. He's a big dude. And, he carried a name. It also doesn't hurt that he was in a combat sport in a way beforehand, being, freestyle wrestling. And, throughout the combat sports world, he has a name. When he first signed to the UFC after he attempted to go for an NFL tryout with the Vikings, and that didn't work out, and he is obviously a guy who likes to try different things. He doesn't like to be stagnant. For everybody who is like, well, he gets to count his money at home, great, good for him. He's earned the right to do that. To much the chagrin of many fans, talent in the back. You listen to Mark Henry say, going back to when Roman Reigns did his, quote, pipe bomb promo on Brock Lesnar, he was saying the things that a lot of boys in the back were thinking, and I'm sure that was a worked shoot, and that's great. Now everyone's taking jabs at Brock for not coming into, for not wrestling in the WWE. Yes, I get it from a perspective that these wrestlers are pissed. They're working their ass off. They're doing all this shit throughout the course of the year. And here's this guy doing whatever the hell he wants. Guess what? When your name draws as much mainstream attention as Brock Lesnar's name does, then yeah, once you earn that right, you're more than welcome to do whatever the hell you please. And, John Cena's done the same thing, even though everyone's been chanting John Cena sucks for God knows how long now. Now everyone's like, oh, well, he's a part-timer, he's going to come in. Who gives a shit? He's done, just from the sake of John Cena, he's done so much for the WWE, and he's lived out his dream that way. Now he's pursuing opportunities. Aren't people allowed to pursue opportunities in other fields? Who are you, meaning anybody behind a keyboard or phone or whatever it may be,